Hi, my name is Chris Menard, and today we're going to make some holiday fall hanging items. We are going to use watercolor paint, watercolor paper, and chipboard and make these cute little hangings. This was not put together, but if you like the cute, we have the pumpkin, and if you like the creepy, we have the sugar skull. This one, like I said, is not put together. We're going to use watercolor paint that is put on a piece of foil. And watercolor paint that we use comes in tubes. So let's get started. What you're going to do is pick up a craft bag at the Lafayette Public Library branches. The packets will look like this, and they'll have a long piece of watercolor paper and also a long piece of chipboard. Also, there will be patterns. The patterns here. And instructions. A piece of wire, which is about 24 inches long. Your palette will be on foil, dark blue, orange, yellow, green, and red. Also, a piece of netting and 2 buttons. At your house, if you would collect a ruler, some very fine point markers, and a regular fine point marker, scissors, wire cutters. If you don't have wire cutters, a pair of old scissors, not your good scissors that you use, but a pair of old scissors can cut the wire. It's very thin. Hole punchers, some glue. I like Eileen's tacky glue, but you could use white glue. Some washi tape, which is like a thin tape that won't tear the paper, or some painter's tape, and some pencils. And all that is listed on your instructions. What we're going to do first is we're going to cut the watercolor paper into 4x4 and the cardstock into 4x4. So use your ruler and measure and make squares, which I already did, 4x4, so that they match here, the watercolor paper and then the cardstock below. Next thing we're going to do is use hole punch, which I already did, hole punch. I measured like this, and I'm hole punched at about the 1 and about the 3 mark. So I did it on the watercolor paper. Then I took the watercolor paper and the matching cardstock, and I marked it, and then that way I can hole punch. Need glasses. I can hole punch. It's kind of hard. The cardstock's kind of thick. Anyway, so you get the idea. Hole punch. Now, if you noticed that there are 4 holes, 2 holes on the top, 2 holes on the bottom for the first one. The middle one has 2 holes at the top and 2 holes at the bottom. And the last one, the third one, has only 2 holes at the top because we don't need any other holes. And then you're going to use some kind of white glue, like Eileen's tacky glue or school glue, and you're going to glue the cardstock underneath the watercolor paper. Let it sit for a while. Put some books on top of it for about an hour at least. Let them dry. After you do that, you're going to get your patterns. Here's the patterns. And you have 2 versions you can do. You can do the cute with the pumpkins, or you can do the kind of creepy with the sugar skull and boo. You can take a white sheet of paper, grab your pencil again, and you're going to turn over your pattern sheet on a white sheet of paper, and we're going to use the old-fashioned graphic transfer method, where we're going to take the pencil and wrap it on the back of the design. It's just on the design area. You don't have to do the whole sheet. And then I'm going to cut that out. Not exact, just kind of, I will leave some paper because we want to use the washi tape to tape it on there. Just over the side. And to save time, what I did is I taped it on with the washi tape or painter's tape. There we go. Now, of course, I'm getting ahead of myself because we are going to do the pumpkin first because I have it in that way. So I did the same thing. These are already done. I used the pencil and I rubbed here. I applied the tape there to hold it down. I traced it with the pencil. Then I went ahead to save time and I used the large Sharpie. It says fine point, but it's not really fine point, to trace all around the edge. And then I used the ultra fine point Sharpie to trace inside the middle. Now you don't have to use Sharpies. You can use other markers, black markers. Make sure they're permanent because once you start watercoloring it, you don't want the paint to blur. Okay, so like I said, you're going to rub pencil. That's the transfer method. Take it, trace it. Basically, it will show up. You'll see the pencil marks on there, and then you will take your marker and outline it. Oh, and we can't forget, we need paper towels. I don't know if I mentioned paper towels. This one, I know you can't see it, but it has a nice pattern on it. And sometimes when you put too much paint in an area, you can use a paper towel and dab it. And this pattern will leave a pattern on the paint, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we'll do the bottom one, which will look similar to this, more or less. Of course, it's painting, so, you know, it's not always going to turn out perfect and look exact. I got my water. And, oh, I forgot to mention paintbrushes. Okay, I have a variety of paintbrushes. If you only have two, that's great. I got this small round one, and this even smaller round one, and this sort of medium round one, and then a flat one. So, we're going to paint the pumpkin first. What we're going to do is we're going to take like the medium round and put some water on the brush, and then take the yellow. So we're going to do some highlights. So in between these ridges, you do like a light wash. You can test it on your little sheet of paper. That's kind of bright, huh? Get it like that. Okay. And you're going to paint like a little bit of yellow to give it a little three-dimensional shine. There we go. And while it's still wet, kind of rinse your brush off. Rub your brush, your wet brush, in the orange. Kind of test it here. That's kind of too bright. And we're going to paint and try and blend that yellow and the orange together. How's that? It's going to make it look like a little bit more three-dimensional, leaving some of that yellow. Leave that kind of like that. Let me get my kind of small, but not the tiniest one. And, well, you know what? I think I'll dry it. I got a hair dryer. Of course, that's optional. You can just let it dry and start on another part. But I'm going to use the hair dryer to save time. So that's pretty dry. I'm going to use, like I said, this sort of small one. And I'm going to get some more orange and make it maybe a little bit darker around here. Give it a little variation. Make it darker around the edges there. Make it, again, look three-dimensional. Go down these ridges here. If you have watercolor paper at your house, you might want to use these patterns, and you could make a card, a greeting card for one of your friends, especially if somebody you haven't seen in a while due to the pandemic, and make them a little greeting card. Happy fall, happy Halloween, missing you, whatever you'd like to write. All you would do is cut and fold the watercolor paper to fit an envelope that you have. That's a regulation envelope. You see, that kind of gives it a three-dimensional effect there. Okay, let's work again on this little pumpkin. There we go, kind of blending it in there, letting a little bit of the yellow show. That looks pretty cool. And it's up to you how much you like. You know, if you think it's fine, kind of light, that's great. You want to add more color. But just remember, it's watercolor, so you don't have to cover it all like we do in acrylic painting where everything has to be covered. You can let a little bit of the white show through and variations of color. Yeah, I think I'm going to dry this medium one and kind of blend it a little bit here. Okay, dry it one more time, and then we're going to do the green stems and work on the other pumpkin, which is the top pumpkin. It's good to have 2 cups of water. One could be your kind of dirty water, and one could be your clean water. Okay, and let's see. I'm going to take a little bit of water and rub it in the green. Make a little wash of the green. Okay, and sometimes you have extra water on your brush, so kind of wipe it off. Okay, I'm going to try for a light. Yeah, it's kind of light. And then I can always go over to make it dark if I want. It's better to go light and then darken. Okay, I think I'll make it a little bit darker. Well, did you know that pumpkins take 120 days to ripen? Unfortunately, I did not know that back in late August. You have to plant them like in, I don't know, June or July. But we do have a beautiful pumpkin plant, and we may have pumpkins. Who knows? Christmas? Might have Christmas pumpkins. That would be wonderful, huh? Anyway, okay, we're going to let that one dry and sit aside there. We're going to paint the other orange pumpkin. And if you notice, I'm going from top to bottom, or you can go from bottom to top. It's just easy, top to bottom. And I'm following the form of the pumpkin to make it look three-dimensional. So don't forget to do that. Okay, we'll do the same thing with this one. We're going to, I'm taking the larger brush because the pumpkin's kind of large. I'm mixing it with the yellow, making a little yellow wash. And I'm painting it down the middle here, very light. Again, trying to make the pumpkin look three-dimensional. And, like we did with the bottom pumpkin, I am going to just do it wet on wet. So the yellow's still wet. I'm going to take some orange, check that, and I'm just going to paint around here and kind of blend that yellow and that orange in. And again, I'm going from top to bottom, so to make it look like, you know, the pumpkin, the shape of the pumpkin. We're following the lines of the shape of the pumpkin. Let's use my medium brush and add some more orange. I'm going to try to blend it, but I'm trying to leave some of that yellow. There it is, so it looks more three-dimensional. Okay, let's dry that and see how it looks dried. Well, we add another layer. I dried in between. Okay, I want a little bit more orange around the edges. And these hanging items, of course, are made with, we're using watercolors, so you can't put them outside, but you could hang them near between a wreath that you have on your, front door, if your front door is covered. You could hang it inside. You could give it to somebody who's in a nursing home that hangs it on their door inside or on their wall. And again, we're going to do the stem, and we're going to do a light color of green. And one more set of green. I'm going to make it darker right here. Maybe like around the edges here. Kind of give it some three-dimensionality. That looks good. I'll let it dry. Okay, so I did the middle part, and the middle part says Happy Fall, y'all. Of course, you can put whatever you want to put, but we have this. And we have a little crow. I guess it's a crow. And I did the same thing. I rubbed the pencil on it, used a pencil to transfer it, and then took a black magic marker and outlined it. And same thing with the bird. Get the bird off. And I used painter's tape this time. So let's get our larger brush. And again, make sure that you have a permanent marker, that you mark this in, a Sharpie or other permanent marker. Make sure it says permanent. You don't want to mess up your artwork. Okay, so I'm going to put yellow in the middle. So let me get a little wash of yellow. And I'm just going to kind of swirl it around here. And then just paint over it. That's kind of cool. And then using again this medium brush, I'm going to make a wash of orange. And kind of just blend it in here. I guess maybe not painting the bird since the bird's supposed to be a blackbird. And let's say you paint it, I'm going to paint it too dark on purpose. You paint it way too dark and you're like, oh no, that's too dark. Get your handy paper towel and sop it up as quick as you can. Sometimes they'll make like a pattern on it, sometimes it won't. But paper towels are good to have. Make sure you have some. Taking some of the orange around the center. The yellow can kind of show through. While it's still wet, I'm just going to go around and put some more orange. Make it look kind of, I don't know, fun, different, a variation. And I'm going to kind of blend it in towards the center here. Okay, I'm going to dry this. Okay, so we're going to do the background here. And we're going to mix some blue, and we're going to start off with light. Very light wash. And using the big brush, because we have a large area. And trying to go around the nooks and crannies of the pumpkin, and if you can't, you can always go back with one of the smaller brushes. Another technique is, taking just water and just kind of going around and then adding your color in there. It helps it flow a little better. You get some nice designs. The library owns a lot of copies of watercolor books. You can check that out. I think it's in the 745s. You can ask the librarian or library worker to help you find some. You can order some online and pick them up at your closest branch. And what I'm trying to do is kind of make it darker around the pumpkin to make it look like a shadow there. And that looks pretty cool. I think I'll dry that and do another layer. I want to put a little bit more blue. I'm going to put more blue at the bottom. Make believe like the pumpkins are sitting on something. Giving it some shadow there. And around maybe the left edge. I just like to do the left side more. Maybe just kind of go around the edges like that. And it gives it a little three-dimensionality. It looks pretty cool. It looks kind of like a spooky night. Now, the top pumpkin. Like I said, one technique is to take some clean water and to just go around your object, your main object, and then dip your paintbrush in water and paint, and it kind of gives you a different effect there. It's kind of cloudy looking, kind of mystical. While those two are drying a little bit more, I think I'll put maybe some blue around the edge here, and the blue and the orange will make it look kind of grayish, just to make it look, make it a little dark around the edges. So let's get a little bit of blue, and just kind of dabble here. And it gives it like a frame, a border, and kind of where the bird is sitting. Set it aside, let it dry. Okay, let's see. This is the first one I did. It feels dry. I'm going to add a little bit more blue. go back to this one, which is about finished. I'm just going to put a little bit of green around the edge just to make it a little, give it a little variation in color. Yeah, I'm just kind of dabbing it on there, making like a little frame. Give it some color. And what I forgot to do is some little swirly curly cues here. So let me get my fine point. This one's an ultra fine point, permanent, and pretty much copy this original one and do some curly cues below the bird. And you can do dots if you want. It's just to kind of give it a little variation, some interest. Make sure that your artwork is dry because your pen will be messed up. Oh, that's kind of cute. Okay, let's see. Okay, this feels dry, and I'm going to do the same thing, kind of copy. And put some curly cues here at the bottom and at the top right here. I'm doing some big, some small, some here, some there. A little variety. Okay, cool, cool. And then if you feel like it, or you put it together, if you feel like, you know, you need to go over some of these lines, like I kind of got the orange bleeding there. You can take your large marker and go around your outline if you wish. Okay, so now we're going to put together. So we have the, okay, top, middle, bottom, and of course you can do it in any variation you want. You're going to have a 24-inch piece of wire, and you're going to use your wire cutters or old scissors to cut it into 6 pieces that are each 4 inches long. Use your ruler, 4 inches long, 6 pieces. Okay? You will fold these little pieces of wire in half, like this. And then, and we can start here at the bottom like that. That way I can turn it over and connect them. And of course, they might be a little wonky because it'll probably be hard to determine exactly how much wire you're doing and what your fingers, and not that they'll prick you, but you know, you don't want to get pricked. I mean, I don't think it would hurt that much. Okay, here's another one. And I'm just kind of going around it and trying to hide the little end of the wire. Okay, there we go. It's not going to be perfect. You know, it's Halloween, it's fall, it's going to be a little wonky. You can adjust them if you need to. Okay, I will tell you about the buttons. So everybody's going to have some buttons. You have different buttons in there. This one has green buttons in its package. So we're going to need to go, let's see, which way did I go? This way, through the front of the button, and you're going to pull your little wire through like this on both of them. So go in through the front like you're sewing a button and pull it all the way through. There it is, like that. So I'm just doing it for the front part. Okay, and then that's how we tie the netting. And what you're going to do is you're going to fold your netting in half like this, and you're going to put your buttons in, and you're going to attach your netting with your buttons. So you see I'm putting the button in front here, got the netting in half, and I'm tying it in the back. I'm taking the wire and kind of twisting it. Same thing with this one. And kind of curl the ends down and hide them and hide them. And then we're just going to make like a little knot at the top here. There we go. And I'm making just a little regular knot here. And this was all attached. You can imagine how cute it would be like this. Okay. So I have this one. One of the things I didn't mention, if you want to go glittery, you might have some glitter glue or glitter. And I don't know if you can see this one, but I did put glitter on it. If you have glitter glue at home or just glitter, you can add it. Okay, so we're going to do the sugar skull now, which is basically the same way we talked about at the beginning. Turn our paper over. We're going to take our patterns, which we did, and we're going to rub on the back with a pencil. La 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 la. We're going to take it and tape it with some washi or painter's tape. Trace it with the pencil. Pull off the pattern. Use our marker. Use the this marker, they call it fine, to go around the edges. We have a nice dark edge. And then use the ultra fine one. Make sure it's a permanent marker to go along all the little details, because you know the sugar skull has flowers and triangles and circles and all kind of things like that, hearts. So I already have one done, but anyway, you get the general idea. There's one right here. And this one I did the same way. We cut our, remember, we cut our watercolor paper and cardstock 4x4, glued them, glued the watercolor paper on the cardstock, dried them for at least an hour, put some books on top of them, make sure they're flat, and, excuse me, we hole punched them first, then we glued them, because that's easier. So we had to match the holes. And the top one has 2 holes at the bottom, 2 holes at the top. Middle one has 2 holes at the top and 2 at the bottom. And then the bottom one just has 2 holes because it's just attached to the bottom. So this one's ready to go. So we can start painting it. Here is a copy. And here's another one. So of course you can paint it any way you want. I'm just going to paint it like this. You're going to have to use a very small brush. I have 2. One is very small round brush. I like the round brushes because it's easier with watercolor. And this is our medium one again. Make sure there's no color there. So we're going to make a wash. And remember, a wash is just taking water, mixing it with the color, testing it, making sure it's light enough. So we're going to start off with light. So we're going to start with yellow, which is the lightest color. And we're going to use the teeny tiny brush. Here, check my color there. And for this one, let's see, yellow was painted among the flowers here. The middle of the flower. These triangular-like things here. And triangular things down here, this design. Okay. Although this one's going to go faster, it's kind of harder in a way because it's so tiny. You have to use a tiny brush. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We're going to have to dry in between unless they don't touch. Well, you know, they don't touch. Most of them don't touch. Okay, so wash this. I'm going to use a green wash. So we're going to rub some water with the green and test it. Nice, nice, nice. We have some green leaves here, right here on this top flower. These little dots. I'm painting them green. Like I said, you can paint it any way you want. Okay, that's all the green I got there. Then we're going to do the orange. And on this one, there's orange flowers here, here, and at the bottom. Paint these little tiny flower patterns. And remember, if you mess up and paint somewhere else, you can use a paper towel to dab it or just decide, well, I'll use that color there. It's art. You can be flexible. Okay, you got to paint these flowers orange, these petals rather. We have the red right here around these eye sockets. All these. That might be hard to paint. They're tiny. And we'll just bend a little closer there, kind of put the paint, and then I'll come back and spread it. And then, of course, you have 2 sugar skulls, so you might want to make them identical, or you might want to make them completely different. It's up to you. And I think I'll do a little variation and put some, which I didn't have on my original there. I'm just going to put a little red down here, a little red right here, a little red right here. And this flower is red according to our example. That looks pretty cool. I think I'm going to have to dry before I get to any more colors. So let's get the handy dandy hair dryer. Well, it's drying a little bit more. Okay, I did the blue, which is on the pattern, and did the same thing where I rubbed the pencil on the back, put it on here, traced it with the pencil again, and then outlined it in a permanent black marker. Okay, this one, the blue was done in orange, and like I said, you can do whatever color you want, and then blue around it. So I'm going to use a tiny brush again, so I can get into these little. Let's see, I don't want to rub the paint off, so I'm going to start on this side. Oh, too much paint. I'll kind of move it around here. And like I said, this one's a lot of detail work, but it's going to come out really nice. Just take your time. Go slow. Use a teeny tiny paintbrush. And of course, you can get paintbrushes at the big box stores like Walmart, or the craft stores like Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Joann's. If you don't have one, you can order it online, whatever your favorite vendor is online. Lots of places to find paintbrushes. One of the places, I'm sure there's lots of art supply stores, but one of the oldest is called Dick Blick, and it's an online store only. And I think they still have someone, if you call, they'll give you information. Like, they have an expert on call. I'm sure some of the newer stores have that too. I'll let it dry a little bit, then I'll hair dry it. Okay, so this one, we didn't do the blue. So the blue is going to be around some of the flowers, this petal, here, the eye sockets and the nose sockets. So let's do that. And make a wash of the blue. And you can see, I haven't used all my paint, so you get a lot of paint on there. So instead of throwing it away, you might want to buy some watercolor paper and use it. Use the watercolors. And again, you can get watercolor paper at the craft stores. Make sure you get 140 pound. Because if you get something thinner, it's not worth it. 140 pound weight. Okay, so I'm going to put a little blue here. A little blue here, which good is going to cover up the red that I messed up on. And a little bit here. These little teeny tiny flowers. I'm kind of putting the paint there and going back and blending them. I had too much paint. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Okay, wash, brush to the yellow in the middle of the red flower. Okay. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to set it aside, let it dry a little bit. Let me dry this one. We can again use blue. I'm going to take the medium round brush, loaded with water. Use that blue and just kind of go around here. And of course, we're going to probably have to go back with a smaller brush. Although this one has a point, you can kind of go around, but if you're kind of worried, oop, messed up. Oh well, it's art. Yeah, no, I'm not going to take a chance. I'm going to use the smaller brush and go around there. Let me just kind of go around these large areas. And again, what we talked about is kind of putting some water here. It's kind of bluish water because my brush isn't clean. And then getting some more blue paint and get a different effect here, kind of a cloud-looking thing. Of course, you can turn your painting any which way you want. Try and get it. It doesn't have to stay in one position. Okay, so without drawing it, I'm just gonna add some more blue here. Yeah, it's kind of mottled, but you know, looks cool. It's kind of creepy. Like a creepy night and you're out alone and you hear the owl. Ooh. Okay, that's kind of cool. Okay, I like that. That's pretty cool. We have this one, and we can go around and add some blue. Now, we used watercolors on here, like I said, and you might have a different color blue. You might have a little bit brighter blue, a little bit darker blue, a little bit lighter yellow, or green. Okay, so again, let's just take the water and go around here. This is easy to go around this one, not as hard as the blue. It's got a big shape in the middle there. And of course, you'll do the same for both of your skulls, your sugar skulls, because you'll be making two sugar skulls, one for the top, one for the bottom. And look how that's beautiful. The water's it's kind of bleeding into the blue paint rather is bleeding into the water, kind of giving you a creepy effect. And that's kind of cool. And a little bit of the white shows through. It's okay. Remember, it's watercolor paint, not acrylic. You can have some light areas and some dark areas. That's the beauty of watercolor. Party. Okay. I'll let it sit and dry. I take the ultra fine point and just kind of make some, you know, curly cues around here just to kind of give it some interest. You know, big ones, small ones. Some going this way, some going that way. Maybe some dots. Let's add some few dots here. Maybe a few over here. You might want to take your marker, go around the outline, or use your ultrafine point for inside. You know, maybe touch it up, make it a little bit darker. You could do that. You're going to have 2 skulls and 1 boo. And of course, if you want to add some curly cues, you can too. This should have 2 holes at the bottom, but it doesn't. This one does. Okay, so let's imagine we got 2 holes here. So let's say this is the top one, this is the middle one, this is the bottom one. It's going to be put together just like your other one. You're going to have a piece of wire, 24 inches of wire. You're going to use wire cutters or old scissors, and you're going to cut 6 pieces, each 4 inches long. And you will fold these 6 pieces of wire like this in sort of a U shape. And you will connect them like we did. Remember, we had done going through the front and turned it over. And we kind of tied the wire here, trying to make them even. Not really easy, but okay, here's another one. And we're going to do that for all of them, except the top where we have buttons. So that's how you connect it. Now this one's connected. The sugar skull and the pumpkin are connected the same way, where you put the wires and connect all the different parts, except at the top where you get your buttons. So continue connecting all these pieces together. You're going to connect these, and then at the top you're going to do something different. You have your buttons, in this case orange ones, and you're going to slip the wire in here, pull it tight, get the front of your button, do this one again, and then you're going to stick your button through here, and your other button through here, and all the buttons are mismatched because this is kind of a wonky art. You're going to take your netting and fold it in half. Try and get the middle right here. Place it kind of in the middle of your picture. And then you're going to twisty tie your buttons in the back. Watching your fingers. Like I said, the wire's not very thick, but you don't want to poke your finger with these. Tie it. And then like I said, imagine this is all connected. Tie it at the top. Oh, simple little tie. You have a cute little hanging. But remember, it's watercolors, so it cannot go outdoors, but you can put it indoors in the middle of a wreath. You can give it to somebody in a nursing home or your aunt or your friend, and they could hang it inside. Lots of people like to decorate for Halloween. So I hope this answers all your questions. One thing I did want to say, I probably mentioned this, but the library has numerous watercolor books. You might want to go to a branch and come inside and check it out, or you can look online, or you can call your local branch and ask them to pick out some watercolor books for you. If they don't have a bunch at your branch, they can get it from the main library, the north or the south, and send it to your branch. Well, I hope you enjoyed this and have a nice holiday season.